Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight. I would like to begin the forum with the U.S. Representative for the 18th District candidates. I would like to introduce Luis Acevedo Arreguin, Peter Hernandez, and Zoe Lofgren to the stage. Thank you. I would like to begin with the candidates' opening statements. Candidates will have 30 seconds to make their opening statements. I would like to begin with candidate Hernandez. He will have 30 seconds.
Hi, my name is this on? Yeah. Hi, my name is Peter Hernandez. I'm running for Congressional District 18. I'm a San Benito County resident, a husband and a father of 4. I'm a small business owner. I've been elected to the Hollister School District Board in 2014, and I'm a sitting county supervisor today. Between the deferral of local authority and the loss of local control that has crippled our community's ability to address our needs, I believe it's time to retire out of control government. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Hernandez. Candidate Arreguin, you have 30 seconds.
My name is Luis Acevedo Arreguin. I am an immigrant from Mexico. I am a U.S. citizenship instructor and also a statistics instructor at a community college. I am here because I think this is the time for more people to be involved in government. In my class, I teach students that they need to go and vote every time that the opportunity is available. But I think there's the time also for the students and new citizens to participate more in government. So I think is the time, and I am here to show our students that this is possible.
Thank you, candidate Arreguin. We would now like to ask Congresswoman Lofgren to give your opening statement. You will have 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. First, let me thank each one of you for coming this evening. As we know, the Independent Redistricting Commission did kind of an odd redistricting, putting San Benito, Monterey, and Santa Cruz County in with Silicon Valley. I represent the Silicon Valley part of this district, and I've seen this as a great opportunity to come down and hear from people who live in this community. I want to represent you, stand up for you in Washington, and be your servant. And I appreciate that so many people in this community care so much about who represents them that they've come this evening here, not just from us, but all the candidates.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Lofgren. We will now be moving on to our first question. We are now linked to Santa Clara County and are in the 18th Congressional District. How do you plan to distribute federal funding equitably, and what kind of projects would you support financially in San Benito County? We will be beginning with Congresswoman Lofgren. You have 1 minute on the clock.
Well, thank you so much. The first thing is to listen to the local community, because the priorities of this community for funding is what I ought to be standing up for. I've already heard of the concern about Highway 25, the congestion, and the need to improve it. As it turns out, before I was in Congress, I was on the Board of Supervisors of Santa Clara County and chaired the group that built Highway 85, Highway 237, and expanded 101. So I've learned quite a bit about how to build a highway, and I look forward to working with all of you, your city, your county, along with the Assembly and State Senate to see if we can get that done. I've heard also about the dreaded zebra clams at the reservoir. We tried to go visit this evening, and it's locked. We couldn't go in. But I do think we need to eradicate and have that open as an opportunity for local residents. And I'm convinced that if we collaborate and bring all the agencies at the table, as I've done in the past, we can get that done, and my time is up.
Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman Lofgren. You'll now be moving to candidate Arreguin. You have 1 minute on the clock.
I think this is the time for low-income families to be prioritized when we are distributing or allocating federal funds. We have a lot of agricultural communities to the south of the District 18 that work very hard during the COVID pandemic. They exposed their lives, and now is the time for them to receive this support from the federal government, either for new roads or better roads, housing. In the case of San Benito County, I think there is a way for people of low-income families to have food when they go fishing. So it's very sad that San Justo Reservoir is not available for them to go fishing and get food over there. So I think we need to find a way to recover some used reservoir, not only by doing a chemical treatment, but also trying to look for the source of pollution for the water body. So I aim to work very hard for San Benito County and the rest of District 18.
Thank you so much for your answer, candidate Arreguin. We will now be moving on to candidate Hernandez. You will have 1 minute on the clock.
The Constitution requires equal representation and intent to respect the will of the majority. Rural agricultural is the majority of this district, so therefore my focus would definitely be on water storage, desalination plants, reducing or revising regulations to ensure the middle class breathes a breath of fresh air. And finally, I would say is we need to make sure that there's a focus on the actual road implementation process to set restrictions in a timeline and ultimately expect those projects to be finalized with the public disclosure element, making sure the public understands those outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer, candidate Hernandez. We will now be moving on to question 2. What are your solutions for DACA beneficiaries and immigrants arriving in communities that already have their own needs? We will begin with candidate Hernandez. You have 1 minute on the clock.
In order to be able to address the needs of any other people in our community that have certain needs, I would say we'd have to make sure that we have a strong national element in our community in our country to ensure that we're able to care for the needs of our local folks. Otherwise, we're finding ourselves struggling. You know, I've learned in my home that if we can't even take care of our own bills, address the needs to be able to, for us to be successful as a family, just the same as a country, I think we're going to struggle addressing others. Thank you.
Thank you. You're now moving on to candidate Arreguin. You will have 1 minute to answer the question.
I've been able to help a lot of DACA immigrants to get their DACA status in the last 6 years, mostly from communities from Oaxaca, Mexico. So this is a different kind of dreamers, and they also deserve to get this DACA status. I work very hard to get them for them. What I can say is that all DACA dreamers should receive the permanent lawful status as soon as possible, because they are not coming just recently. They are part of these communities since a long time ago. So they are not bringing more problems. They are part of the solution. They were very hard workers in the strawberry fields in Watsonville, in the Salinas Valley, in Castroville. So they deserve to be considered now as a permanent residents in our country. So if we want to have more people to participate, to vote, to be involved in our society, we need to give them the legal status.
Thank you, candidate Arreguin. We will now be moving on to Congresswoman Lofgren. You'll have 1 minute on the clock.
Thank you so much. I actually chair the Immigration Subcommittee in the House Judiciary Committee, and through that committee, we shepherded the bill that would allow DACA students to, over a period of time, gain their legal permanent residence. It's important to know these are young people who are brought here as children and are de facto Americans, except for their paperwork. It's important that we unleash their full potential as Americans through this bill. The bill has passed the House. It's in the Senate, and the Senate has what's called a filibuster rule, requires a 60 vote margin to do anything. So they've been stuck. I think it's worth noting, for example, the Farm Workforce Modernization Act that I wrote really addresses people who are here now, who are performing essential functions. I believe immigration should be orderly. It ought to be legal, but we need to reform our laws so that people can comply. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Lofgren. We'll be moving on to our third question. Many residents commute to Santa Clara County for work or college. What would Congress do to help improve the commute, reduce environmental impact, and expand public transportation? We will begin with Congresswoman Lofgren with 1 minute on the clock.
Well, thank you very much. In my opening remarks, I mentioned the need to improve Highway 25, and I actually believe that is possible to do if we all pull together, city, county, state, and federal. We also, in the infrastructure bill that the Congress passed and the President signed into law, have a number of provisions to move people towards electric vehicles. That is the wave of the future. We need to be an alternative energy for our environment, but also for foreign policy reasons. We've seen what's happened with Russia attacking Ukraine and interfering with the world's oil market in a very destructive way, increasing costs here in the United States. So it's right that the president is releasing oil from the oil reserve, but we do need to move forward on alternative vehicles, including mass transit. And I thank you. My time is up.
Thank you, Congressman Lofgren. We will now be moving to candidate Hernandez. You will have 1 minute on the clock.
Thank you. So when it comes down to Highway 25, it's actually 10 years out. We have a little bit of an issue when it comes to funding because the funding is going to be allocated specifically for locals, which is a necessity, but just the same, it's pushed out. So there's a little bit of complexity. Ultimately, to me, the issue that means is to address local control. If we don't have the ability to manage our own resources, we're going to fail by default. Unfunded mandates is an easy example. There's restrictions on local communities. There's not a good relationship from the top down between the state and the locals and the feds and the locals. Ultimately, what that means is we're going to end up unable to address the needs of our community, and roads is one of them. And then arbitrary laws. We're dealing with laws that contradict each other, but just the same. We have to implement them, again, tapping resources, causing it, our local authorities, including our department heads, to figure out how we're going to be able to address the needs of our community. At the end of the day, if we want to fix our roads, we need to localize funding. We make sure those dollars are earmarked and that we end up implementing what we said we were going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Hernandez. We will now be moving to candidate Arreguin. You will have 1 minute on the clock.
I think one way that we can start reducing the contamination of our air and natural resources is trying to find opportunities for people to work locally, because commuting is something that happens every day in our district. So, and that's contributing to the contamination of air. So the other option is public transportation and better highways. But I think that with gas prices going up these days, maybe considering the high-speed train would be another possibility. We need to think about it. It's an option. And also, I think electric vehicles is something that we could have maybe in the long term. With the economy failing, it's very hard for the people to afford a $50,000 vehicle. So the intentions are good, but the way that we are pursuing this maybe is not. So we need to find a different approach. We need to gradually move from fossil oils to electric energy, to green energy. But at this time, our people need a way to put food on the table.
Thank you so much, candidate Arreguin. We will now be moving on to closing statements. Each candidate will have 45 seconds to make their closing statement. We will begin with candidate Hernandez.
Thank you. Thank you, BenitoLink, for an opportunity to speak. While we were shut down, I went to work. With the support of my board, I brought forward getting the downtown revitalization to happen. Within 3 months, we got all the pieces in place. From the idea to inception, we celebrated a ribbon cutting in November. I'm the fighter that COVID didn't expect to create. This district goes from South San Jose to King City. 65% of this district is majority Latino. 2/3 of the geography is rural and agricultural. The majority of this district is therefore also middle class. Therefore, I am Congressional District 18. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Hernandez. We will now moving on to candidate Arreguin. You have 45 seconds.
Something that I teach my students in the U.S. citizenship class is that we need to participate more in the government. I think the founding fathers, when they envisioned the House of Representatives, they thought a two-year term was sufficient for a representative of the people to go and participate in government. When we have a person that have been reelected more than 13 times, more than 26 years serving in the U.S. Congress, I think something is happening in our community, something odd. So we need more participation of people. So we encourage people to vote. Let's encourage people also to be part of the solution by going to Washington, D.C. So that's what I'm aiming now. That's my aim, that more people participate, even though we cannot have all the skills, the expertise that other people have, we can do it. Sí se puede.
Thank you, candidate Arreguin. We are now moving on to Congresswoman Lofgren. You have 45 seconds.
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, there are things I chair the House Administration Committee, which has jurisdiction over elections. I hope to get the free elections bills and the ethics reform bills that we've passed in the House through the Senate. I hope that our immigration reform bills from the committee I chair in the Judiciary will also be moved through the Senate. I hope that I'm the next senior member on the Science Committee, which means I have an opportunity to really promote investment in science for the future of our country. Part of representing a community is not just the bills, it's listening to the people you hope to represent, capturing from their words, their hopes, their dreams for a law-abiding, peaceful country that adheres to the Constitution. I hope to be able to do that for you, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Congresswoman Lofgren. Thank you all the candidates for District 18 Congress representatives